Ready?
Yeah.
All right. Call the meeting to order at 5:04 p.m. on today, Wednesday, March 9th, 2016. In attendance tonight are TA, Aline, Laura, myself, Dan, Dawn, Jan, and Scott. We are in full attendance tonight. So, with that being said, do we have a call for approval of the minutes?
I approve. I'll approve the minutes.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? I thought so. Motion carried. Moving on. Public comments. Public is silent. All right. Moving on. Library Director's Report. Hit us, Mo.
Right. So, I just want to let you know that I created some really lovely statistics for you, and many of them are completely wrong. So how this happened,
Are they exciting at least?
well, they're, not that far off
She was
from
reading too much Mark Twain.
normal. So, I found something that I thought were the February statistics that I get this report from Network every month, and I went and blissfully created my own statistics using those. And then yesterday or the day before, I got an email from the person at Network who does these things, and she said, so many of you have been asking where the statistics are this month. They will be coming. So she hadn't even done them yet. So I don't know what I was looking at exactly, but maybe last year's. I don't know. But then, of course, it doesn't line up to last year's, so I don't know. So I will amend the statistics, but we can go through these a little bit because some of them are accurate, because some of them I get from Linda and other sources, so those are accurate. So for instance, the door count is accurate. So we are still at 100%, 106% of last year in door count. And you may remember from previous months where we kind of noticed this trend where our door count is very stable or even higher than last year, but our circulation of materials is down. So I don't know if that trend is still holding or not, but our door count is definitely higher because the direct loans to public, which comes next, that is all inaccurate. And can you guys see all this stuff? Mm-hmm. And then self-check, that's wrong. Holds, wrong. Library to go, wrong. Reference, correct. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not because they're lower than last year, but they are correct. And I know I've described to you guys before, the discrepancies in reference have a lot to do with who's sitting at the desk, what we're counting, and we're trying to get more drilled down on counting true reference questions, not like where the bathroom is. Because the state counts these as well, and they don't want directional questions, for instance. But it's really hard to track what you do, and in fact, a lot of people just track like a couple months out of every year, and then just extrapolate for the rest of the year. And
When did that start? Your
what's-
new counting?
oh, this has been going on for a while.
Okay.
So we've just been doing it really randomly, poorly for a while.
Okay.
So with my new librarians in place, maybe we will come up with a new method at some point in time that might be a little bit more accurate. What I can tell you is that people on desk are constantly interacting and helping the public, and how is best to capture that activity, I don't really know. So programming, that's all also accurate. And our children's programs are down a little bit because it reflects that last year we did still have a Friday story time. We still had family story time. So we still had a few of those programs that have changed. This is going to be one of those evolving numbers as Barrett brings on new programs. And she has started the art lab on Wednesdays and the Lego lab on Saturdays, which is very, very exciting. And your husband's going to be involved in one of those. And YA, so those are, let's see, adults. We actually, YA first. We actually are attracting more teens to our teen programs. And the adult ones is, it's fewer programs, but attendance is pretty good. So cultural passes is accurate and doing well. Registrations, I don't know. Public internet, I don't know. Processing, materials added is not accurate, but materials withdrawn is probably at least partially accurate. It comes from a different source. And then the money is accurate, but that fluctuates from month to month depending on when the deposit day falls. So I wouldn't read too much into the fact that we're $1,300 less than this time last year. So we continue to do our Friday film series. Those are going well. We had Jane Kirkpatrick. She packed the house and 77 people. That was really, really good. She's awesome. Our Pints from the Past was really strange because I think you'll recall the one we had about the Willamette Falls archaeology. We had like over 220 people there, and then we did this one on kind of like the beer, craft beer industry, the business of it, kind of the history of that, and we had 30 people.
So
But
weird.
those 30 people had a great time. I can tell you that.
Huh.
It was a really wonderful discussion.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting. But, I mean, this is definitely an art that we're still, bless you, still
you.
kind of working on. And especially Pints from the Past, it's brand new. So I think we have 3 or 4 lined up, and the next one is probably going to be about the locks. And that one might generate a lot of interest because it's so local. But you just don't know. So that'll probably be in April, and there's a lot going on in April because of National Library Month, National Library Week. We'll do our matching finds. So we'll see. Yeah, yes.
Laura gets excited. I
At
get
that
very
time of the
excited.
year. Yeah, yeah. And then one of the other things I wanted to bring your attention to, which has gotten really very interesting, is the advisory board. Or advisory committee is actually what it is. Library District Advisory Committee. So, so Dawn is in the process of getting appointed to that officially. I don't know why. This kind of started happening in the middle of the city manager search and all that stuff. So there was a lot of stuff going on in the city that kind of detracted attention from that specific thing getting done. But it was never because anybody thought it was a bad idea or anything. So that's just bureaucratically moving forward the way it needs to. I've explained to you why that's all happening because of the idea that it was a citizen advisory board, not like a library director advisory board. And so that's happening. And some of the issues that are in front of the advisory committee are very, very serious ones. And they've kind of grown out of some questions that happened that have been fermenting for a long time, including allocated cost to libraries as charged by their city. So it was Canby that kind of it first erupted down there. Other cities allocate costs to their library, but most of them also give their library money from the general fund to help with those costs. So it's kind of a trading of funds, but they allocate costs to like all their departments, so they also allocate costs to their library. But they help their library pay for those things. So Canby doesn't. And so it kind of makes it look like Canby's making money from the library district. Yeah. And okay, so that's one issue. Another issue which I brought before you is the expenditure of the district funds on capital improvements versus operational. And the district was formed to spend money on operations, not capital. However, at least 4 of us have been spending money on capital, including us, right?
The reasoning being?
The reason being that if you don't have a facility, to spend operational money on,
Yeah.
What kind of service are you really providing, right? The other reason being is the county really does not want to get in the business of telling each city how to spend its money as long as the money gets spent on libraries. But it was really intended to be for operations. The reason it was intended to be for operations is because there was an existing district, and that was the Estacada district, and that was for capital improvements. And so you couldn't overlay districts, especially not ones for the exact same purpose like that. So that's now defeased, is what they call it. It's all gone away. And basically there's agreement also at the Board of County Commission level that they're fine with library cities spending money on capital and on operations, but that is not how the IGA is written. So what's probably going to happen over time is that the IGA will be revised so that we're doing things in accordance with what we say, how we're going to do it, right? So that's one issue, and that's the issue that involves us the most, but it's probably not a problematic issue. I wouldn't worry about that at all. And then there's Gladstone. And Gladstone decided, well, they were supposed to build a library that incorporated the Oak Lodge Library into one big library and served that big service area. And the good folks of Gladstone decided they didn't like that plan, even though that's what they were supposed to be doing with the money they were getting from the district, and they changed that plan. And so this might have been okay had they allowed Oak Lodge citizens to participate in a plan at all, but they didn't. And the Oak Lodge people got really, really, really irate, went to the Board of County Commissioners, and the Board of County Commissioners is now requiring Gladstone to kind of do a full audit of the district money, that capital money that, you know, we got that $1 million. Well, they even got more because they were combining things, how that was spent towards a facility. And that they include Oak Lodge people, and that if they don't do that, they're going to start the process to kick Gladstone out of the district. Yeah, it's pretty.
It's further complicated because at the last meeting, a Gladstone city councilman, is that right, announced that the library would be built on the bottom floor of the Gladstone City Hall.
Right.
When I read in a couple of days later that Oak Lodge said, over our dead bodies. So, you know.
They have to come up with something that's mutually agreeable, and come up with something that's, you know, everybody has input on appropriately. So, so there's like a little bit of, and then that, like, the Molalla city manager said something about, like, yeah, let's just get out of this district because I don't like being told how to, you know, spend the money and da-da-da. So there's some stuff going on in the district which is very, very interesting. And I have to say, the last meeting that Dawn and I were at has to be one of my least favorite meetings I've ever attended in my entire life.
Contentious.
It was awful.
Yeah.
And
Nasty feeling.
so, like, some of the people at the table were actually saying that library directors who were still the voting members were illegitimate voters. So, like, we could not vote on anything. And it's like, look, we're trying to get to the place where we have the right people who's actually sitting right next to me and agrees with everything that, you know, I'm voting on. But that takes some time, and it's a process. And they're like, well, no, we just don't agree that you should even be doing it. And I'm like, well, then let's go home. Why are we here? So it was really unpleasant. And so in the meantime, though, I think we're going to get more. Well, they estimate that we're going to get more this year than their first estimate. So we actually are getting a little bit of an increase each year as we go along from the district. That's going very, very well. So as far as we're concerned, everything's great with the district. It has brought a ton of stability to Oregon City Library. Mm-hmm. And we are obviously doing stuff now that we never could have done before without it. So we'll keep you posted, folks. It's exciting out there. But I really wanted to bring you up to speed on that, and I'm keeping, obviously, the city manager in the loop, too. Because it's, you know, it could kind of change things.
And you're welcome. We'll suck it up for you on this board.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, some of us are just so good about doing that, aren't we? Yes. So, any questions on any of that kind of stuff? All right, well then let's attack the all these meeting room policies, shall
Yep.
we? So the first one, we thought that it would be a really good idea to split the community room from the two little conference rooms that are upstairs.
Yeah.
Because we felt like that should be a little bit more casual, although we're prepared to start stricter and then loosen up a little bit. And remember also, it's like, we're the guardians of this. We can change this stuff at any time.
Right.
You know? And we also don't want this to be too process-driven, so that if we just decide to change up something, that's just how we do something over there, we don't have to come back to you guys and get it all approved all over again as well. So we didn't create this in vacuum. We stole liberally from West Lynn. After looking at many, many different libraries' processes or policies, some of them are way more complicated than this, and we could add all kinds of language to it. But we thought we'd kind of start on the simpler side, so this is starting on the simpler side, just so you know. Do you guys need another copy of that stuff?
No, we're
Okay.
gonna share.
Okay, awesome, because I've got one.
I like you.
I know, she's lovable. So, on the small conference room, we don't, well, even like the reservation procedure is a process, and we wouldn't necessarily have to have it in our policy. And there might be more information that we post, for instance, on the website or something that tells people like how to do things. So this is just policy. But that like if it's for, and here's one that I could see arguing with if I was a kid. If there's like seating for 4, but they want to have like 8 kids in there. I mean, you know how kids are. They want to pile in there. Is that bad? Is that wrong? So one of the things that here says, the number of people in your group must not exceed the capacity of the room. And right now we have the small one listed as 6. So let's say 8 people want to load in there. I mean, that seems like maybe I want to go back and rethink that.
So when you say capacity, that always trips a trigger for me. Is that something to do with the fire marshal?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I guess they'll go around and do that for each room.
Yes, and you have a door that closes, so.
Yes, we have a door that closes.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they
So
will.
I'm thinking that
they'll
there's
give you a
a
capacity.
reason that says capacity, because
Yeah.
that's
So I mean, like if,
safety
if
issue.
6 is the official capacity, then we're gonna have to keep our eye on that, because that, we really don't want to get in trouble with the fire marshal.
Right.
Right.
So we can, whatever that number is, we can make that statement.
Yeah.
I think that's the right way to say it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
agree.
So I had a question.
yes.
Are we going through this? But mine's towards the bottom.
That's fine. I mean, I don't
Okay,
really
it's
know
fine.
how to go
Okay.
through this, because my God, it would take us all night if we go through point by point.
I guess my question was, with the reservations will be limited to 1 reservation per week. I was thinking, like, for someone who's doing tutoring or small group work with more than 1 person, and that's sort of the breakout quieter space. Like, how is reservation defined? Like, could one tutor, one person have more than 1 reservation?
That's a good question, and I have a question for you.
Yeah.
How is tutoring defined? So like in
So
Eugene
say I'm
Public
learning-
Library,
yeah.
if people were getting paid for tutoring, we like said, go do your business somewhere else.
Okay.
But I mean, we could do whatever we want here.
Okay.
But
What if it's like for like a nonprofit surface or like social service, and we have to find a public space to meet, like as a counselor, right? Yeah. I mean, so it's not. Do you know like
Yes.
sort of?
Right.
So no, not for pay, like not a business, but
Okay.
like
Okay, good. So we're
you
on
know,
the same
like
page with that.
do you know what I mean? Like
I do. And I think the reason we stuck with like once a week, we could easily change it, is just because we don't know what the usage is going to be at first
Right.
and how high it's going to
Right.
be.
I had a thought on that very same thing
Yes?
when you're through. Well, I know that people who have whatever it is want to get their place set up months in advance, and so they say, I'm going to meet every Tuesday between this and that night,
Yeah.
and pretty soon that room is just blocked, for this one user, which I suppose that's okay, but I just don't want somebody just hogging the place for whatever purpose it might be. I'd like it a little more.
So down further below, Don, it says rooms may be reserved up to 28 days in advance.
Yeah.
And I think that's all. So
I just-
that's an attempt to avoid that.
Sure. But I just think there needs to be some kind of a little hurdle they have to go through to get the room, as opposed to just say, I want to block this for the next year, that type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. That's all.
I have a question about that too.
Can you come up to the,
I mean, I know I've observed in the library people sort of having meetings in that space. So that's what prompted my question.
It's-
It didn't seem like a money, it's more like sort of nonprofit
Right.
social support.
well, and I
service
mean,
support.
we don't often ask,
Yeah.
in that informal way of, yeah.
And the one reservation, is it per group or per person?
For sure, and say who you are.
Oh, I don't know. I'm Linda
Yeah.
Van Haverbeek. Are you asking if it's from a certain organization? So like if the foundation wanted to meet and we had a real meeting one day and we had a subcommittee meeting another, would it be under like Linda's name or would it be under the foundation's name? And I know it depends on usage.
Well, these are good questions. I'm not going to
But
answer
what-
them right on the
yeah,
spot, but you think about it, yeah.
Mhm. And what I hear you saying is that we might start a little tighter until you kind of see what usage is, so that you
Right.
can then kind of figure out what the parameters are. And I think that makes sense, because I think, as Don said, you don't want somebody just kind of park and have this room now set up for,
Well, meeting place in this town is a rare commodity.
Yeah.
That's just it.
Yeah.
I know it's going to be very popular, and I'd actually like it to be, and we can reserve our, did we write in here that it's, library first on everything? We
Yeah.
put
Yeah.
that in here. We could reserve, let's say after school from 2 to 5 or something. We could end up reserving that every day ourselves and just saying, okay, and it's open for those kids who come. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
that gives us the flexibility to do those kinds of things. We just don't know yet because we are so unused to dealing with this kind of space because we've never had the option.
I mean, I think it's that idea of seeing what's going on in the library now and how that,
Translates.
how that will translate to the new space, because clearly you're filling a need now space-wise. Do you know?
Well, and how to keep people who don't really need a meeting room out of the meeting room also.
Right.
Maybe they'd be just as happy off in some quiet corner and save the meeting room for something else. And how do you distinguish that?
Right.
Yeah, Eileen.
I would, I had a comment about the 15 minutes prior to the library closing. I would just suggest it be a half hour. People,
You're right.
it takes them 15 minutes to get it together. And, 15 minutes, the lights will be going off and they'll still be in the room. So I would just be a little proactive, half hour. That gives your staff, you're dealing in a space you're not used to, and gives you a chance. You've got to check all these doors, check all these meeting rooms. I would say half hour before you close. 15 that's way
Short, okay.
too short. Yeah,
That's
real
good.
close.
Is this right? The two smaller rooms, you have to be 16, but 18 for the community room?
Yeah, that's the way it's written right now. The community room, there's more to break. Well, I don't know if there's more to break, but there's that little kitchenette in there, and so I think there's a little bit. But eventually, in the small one might be a 3D printer. So, but I mean, it's right off the teen area, the little one, and so yeah, I don't know quite how to handle that. Barrett, what? Yeah, you need to turn it on. It needs to be right.
Yeah.
No, okay, it was on.
It
There you
is
go.
on. So I think I was the one who suggested the 16 for that study room, for the smaller rooms, just because they are right off the teen room, and it seems if teens are going to be using that space to work on group projects or something for school, having this space of that small room is a really valuable resource for them. Also, if we tried to have all of our tables in the teen area, we would be stuck with literally 3 bookcases, and it would hold maybe, not even half of our current collection. We had a shelving meeting this morning, and I had to beg for more shelf space. So it creates, I mean, if that space was there right off the teen area and teens couldn't use it, I mean, where else are they supposed to go to study if they're trying to work on a project?
Should it be lower than 16? 16 is pretty high.
I
I mean,
we
that's
could make
like,
it
14.
14.
I think 14.
Freshmen in high school.
Yeah.
yeah, that's
14.
even 13, isn't it? Or is it 14?
14.
It's usually 14.
14?
Someone in their group will be 14, right?
For high school students. I mean, I think there are middle schoolers who might want to use it, but at the same time, I think there's, I mean, not that, you know, high school students have perfect judgment, but I think it is much more impaired in that, I mean, in
Well,
that.
and that's kind of maybe a nice, like, you need to be in high school before you can go there kind of thing. I don't know, unless it's like in use
Yeah.
with a library thing.
Yeah.
Maybe so.
And also middle schoolers just have less freedom of movement. Like if they're trying to get to the library,
Yeah.
they've got to have a ride from a parent. Or they have to get there somehow. Whereas once kids get to high school, you know, even if they can't drive yet, they often have friends who can drive.
Right. So, so a parent could reserve a room
Yeah.
for their child or use it with their child. And what do you think about having a Link library card in good standing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I got,
Good.
Registered users.
Yeah, well, and we make it really easy to get cards these days. We've got lots of options for people. So we've kind of expanded that. All right, so anything on the small meeting room that like catches your eye?
Got that.
As far as like what equipment will be available for people to use, there'll be equipment in there, but we need to kind of work through some of that stuff too.
To be announced.
Yeah, kind of to be determined. Okay.
And that's going to change over time anyways.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, we really kind of need to get in there and use the stuff ourselves before we like let other people use it or train other people to use it. I know at West Lynn, they've got one of these, they've got that small business room kind of area, and they've got like a Mondo pad or something that they let people use, but they do have to go through a training process. But as one of my staff pointed out to me, who's in charge of that training process? You know, how do we make sure that happens? And it's, you know, staff is, I don't want to overpromise what staff can do at the moment. You know, we're going to be getting used to a new big building, so we need to get used to
Playing a
that.
game of who's doing what.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we need to get used to using that technology first, so.
And you mentioned a 3D printer.
And, yeah,
That's going to be such a magnet, you know, for.
well, it will, but we may not have one when we open. We may
Well,
wait.
yeah,
you know,
but
we don't,
eventually, you know.
everything, yeah, you know, because we have a goal for that, but I mean, we can only throw so many new things at staff at once. So, and besides, you don't just have like a CD printer without like some corresponding programming to go with it, and that takes a while to develop.
There's also materials to go along with that, and
Yeah, there's all kinds
I
of
wouldn't
things to
think that
think
the
about.
district would want to have unlimited goo going through that thing for somebody's
Yeah.
Lego project, you know. So I don't
Right.
know. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
All right, so next, I just lost my stack here. The big community room.
I had a couple things right off the bat.
Okay.
Read, and all of a sudden at the bottom, I see a $20 deposit. I think some people will be surprised at that because they probably wouldn't get that far down all the stuff. So I'm thinking that it probably needs to be some kind of a hint that there's a $20 use fee. There may be a refundable $20 use fee, you know, and then
We can, yeah, and just because the policy is written this way doesn't mean that our handout materials or what people read on the website will be written this way.
Okay.
Like, I noticed that, like Eugene Public Library has this really nice little handout where they have like a box of like all the most important like bullet points of
Sure.
knowing things that might include a deposit or something, and then they've got the long text of the deposit or the policy elsewhere. So yeah, that's a really good point, Dawn. What did you think about requiring a deposit, though?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
It seems low to me.
If it's refundable.
Seems low to you.
It seems low to me. I mean, that's not even an hour's worth of a cleaner coming in. If they forfeit it if they don't clean. for a cleaner to come in, a housekeeper, that's an hour's worth of time. If they trash it, you're out. I mean, $20 seems, I mean, I understand it's a public building and it's a library, but you may want to think about it, particularly if there's equipment involved.
Yeah, that would, I think, have to change if there was equipment involved.
Okay.
I think that's a really good point. And not everybody's going to want to use equipment,
Right.
you know?
So I guess my question is, how are you going to enforce that all meetings are concluding prior to 10:30 p.m.?
If I'm not there. Oh, well, we can turn the alarm system on so that if they're not out of there, I get a call from the cops or something.
I was really surprised that it's that window is as late as it is.
As late?
Yeah. Like, what kind of activities? You sound like such an old lady. It's like, what kind of things would be going
They should
on?
be in bed.
Like fundraising
Well,
events, but
could
we're
be.
not being. I mean, like library, yes, but
Yeah, or city things I could see going on
Could be
late.
the
But
McLaughlin group adopts that as a place that they meet.
do they meet till 10:30?
I have no idea.
usually.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, you know, but what you are raising is a really good point, because I think this was written from the West Lynn point of view, and I think they have like a building overseer that hangs out there or something, and so, I don't know, let me look into that a little bit more of how,
I just think if there's no staffing or no security, to have something open till 10:30 at night with the assumption
Right.
that people are going to be leaving and making sure everything's okay, I
You
just,
can't depend on them to do that.
I don't, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I would
some
agree.
people will be conscientious, but
Some will.
A
I
lot of
just-
people will walk out the door and go, "Well, the security guy will come by and lock it up."
well, yeah, and that's, so you have to make really clear to the person whose name is on the reservation that they understand that they are the security person. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's risky.
I think that is risky. I think you don't want to have meetings going on when there's no staff. And you don't want to be paying staff overtime to be there, so. that's-
Well, I mean, it's designed so that it can be used after the library is closed,
And it's blocked off.
and it's blocked off.
There's like no access to the library whatsoever, even bathrooms.
No, there's access to the bathrooms, and there's access to like the back hallway, and that's it. And the elevator will be able to be locked down, so they can't go up, they can't go down. They can only just be in the bathroom area and the community room area.
What security, do we have any cameras or anything back there?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. I know, yeah,
I think we have one in the
we
hallway.
have one in the
there,
hallway
yes.
because we want to make sure we can see who's coming out of the bathrooms, because that's the site of a lot of vandalism.
Yes?
They have some on the outside, but I don't think we have, I'm not sure about other places inside.
But it's really recording only. It's not something that someone's watching.
Yeah.
There's no
Surveillance system.
It's a recording system, but it's
Yeah.
not a.
If I went
yeah,
back
it's
the
not a
next day and
current
it was
surveillance.
trashed, I would be able to like look at that and maybe get some tips, but
Okay, just evidence.
they're not going to notify me.
And
So-
what does the city have for security in terms of, do they have somebody or an agency that comes around,
We have
or
a
the
whole,
cops?
we have a
or-
whole police department.
I mean, do they actually go out around
I have
and
my
rattle
own police
doors?
department, DA.
Okay, that's okay, but
Sounds like something
my
from a
experience
story.
with cops is that they don't like to get out of their car.
Well, I
So
mean,
then they
that-
don't rattle the door.
They're not going to do that unless they notice something weird.
Right.
You know, I mean, if they
Right.
notice something weird,
So there isn't any private agency that goes around
No.
and checks that
No.
things are locked and
No.
so forth? Like
No.
if you forgot to lock that door out there tonight, nobody's going to know.
well, they have a custodian come in.
Oh, okay.
There's somebody.
Yeah, but I mean, that is an automatic lock system, and ours would be an automatic lock system too. So that's the thing, if these people, like, probably the alarm would go off is what would happen, because if they left and the door was not locked, after a certain period of time, it has to be shut, or the alarm will go off.
Or if someone stays in the building, would that?
Or if someone stays in the building, there are sensor things on doors and windows like we have in the current building.
Sure.
Is it possible that if someone wanted to have meetings after normal library hours, that there would be a fee imposed? And
That's what I'm
that
thinking.
fee
Would
would
be-
be part of hiring somebody to be the
Monitor, building
the monitor
monitor.
and the check person, that they go through a checklist when they're done, make sure everything's done, close it up. And that's just a fee that they pay to have the advantage of having access for after hours. That it is available, but it's an additional fee. And just that takes care of all the problems. And whether it's a retired police officer who sits and babysits in the office and just watches cameras and then locks and makes sure, so you're not coming in the next day finding everything trashed and everybody's going, wasn't me. I don't know what happened,
Yeah.
wasn't me.
Well, and so the example you brought up of like the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association, so that would be one group I actually feel
trust,
like we
yeah.
could train them and trust them to lock everything up appropriately. Especially because they've been using the fire station, and although there are firemen there are never firemen involved with dealing with that aspect of usage. So then it would, we'd need to write this in a way that would reflect something like, the fee may be waived under certain circumstances, but then you have to write that so it's fair. You know what I mean? So that's like, well, you didn't charge them, but you're charging me, blah, blah, blah.
Well, everyone will tell you that, oh, no problem, we'll get it locked up. No-
I
no
know,
trouble.
I know.
We'll have somebody on the door. It's a constant
Yeah.
game of, and then they just walk right out.
Yeah, because they're other directed, they're thinking about their meeting and where they gotta go home with the kids. And
Right.
What's a door, so.
And it would
Yeah,
seem
you
that
need
if there's nobody,
accountability.
if you're having meetings afterwards, you want to have at least some name that's a contact, or if there's a problem.
Oh, right. Well, you'd
And so
always-
that
yeah.
there's got to be a staff, someone on call for
Yeah,
that, or
well,
maybe that's always you.
That's, then why they pay me the big bucks.
Yeah.
This is great, you guys.
I just had a comment on the first page, under number 1. It's just a simple issue of wording. And that 3 lines down under number 1, you have Oregon City community and area citizens. Because I represent
Residents?
out of area, that it could maybe be the Oregon City Library community versus just the Oregon City community.
Sure.
Gives it a little bit broader, and area residents. Citizens just, to me, sounds real political.
Sure.
That's just my only comment there.
No. Could you use the residents of the Oregon City Public Library Service area, if that's the
I think that might be a more appropriate
Yeah,
way to
something
Yeah.
in those terms.
state
Because I
it.
know we're using that terminology in other policies.
It just lets people know that it's bigger than Oregon City.
Yeah. Which is important.
So I also had a question about that for-profit activities such as fundraising. So if there's a nonprofit planning a fundraising, it would not be appropriate for them to use this space? Because is that considered a for-profit? But that wasn't clear.
That's not clear.
It wasn't clear to me, but maybe it was clear to other folks.
Really?
That's a Crook County.
Anytime there's money involved, it's not clear.
We've got some more info on
And
that.
a lot of the input in this one is my experience with the large meeting rooms at Crook County Library. And so that was something we struggled with about whether we were hard line about anything. And what we ended up doing is, I think there's a bunch of different directions that we could go. And so we could say, if you are planning a fundraiser, you can do, if you are a nonprofit, you can do that in the library. You can plan the fundraiser, but you cannot conduct the fundraiser and collect funds at the library. So we have the option to say you can plan the fundraiser, but the money can't change hands. So for example, we let Relay for Life use the library, and so they would plan all of their activities, but we wouldn't let Relay for Life exchange any funds on the property. So that is just, I think it's at our discretion of whether we're terming fundraising, whether we're differentiating between fundraising planning and between the actual collection of funds.
Okay, yeah. I would agree. I mean, I think that's a good clarification. I mean, I just didn't read that in here. It wasn't clear to me.
That's not clear.
So the room is not available to do events that raise money, but it is available for nonprofits to use if they're planning a fundraising event somewhere else.
We
like
have-
Relay
Unless
for
it's like
Life or-
us.
or
We
that,
have a
yes.
comment from the community.
I had a question. I might have read it wrong because I just skimmed it. On the bottom of the second page, it says that all meetings are open to all the public.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Public library.
Public library.
I had that same question, so that meant that anybody having a meeting there, anybody could walk in on the meeting.
That's the way most library community room policy is written. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of weird. The public is rarely going to take you up on it if you like, believe me, put up a schedule of what's going on in the room.
The reason I ask is because in the past, this man is now dead. And I was at a number of different times at public meetings. He lived in Oregon City, and he had an Alzheimer's issue. But if you just walk in, how can you tell them that they're unwelcome in the meeting if it's open to everybody?
Well, you can't.
And
tell
he's
them.
disruptive, I mean.
Well, there's that.
Well, being disruptive is different. Being
Yeah.
disruptive is a behavior problem that we can address through our behavior policy.
You see how that could really be taken the wrong way? So somebody comes into the room that you don't like, and you want to throw them out because what? They're
But
wrong something?
some meetings aren't public meetings.
if they're held here, they are.
That's kind of how libraries traditionally do it.
So not that we're trying to keep secrets, but let's use the foundation as the board meeting of the foundation. If we don't really invite
We
the
have.
public, I suppose. To
No, not
sit
the
in
public,
on
but
the-
we have invited individuals.
Oh, yes. But, we don't really leave that meeting as an open to.
we don't.
And partly because we're discussing money and that kind of thing. so,
Confidential.
Yeah.
So it just may not be a good location for that kind of meeting.
I was thinking even things like AA.
Well, those are open to the public.
You can go. They have them at Atkinson. You can walk right in.
They're happy to see you.
Yep.
Well, they are, but there's confidentiality issue too.
That's part of the deal.
Yeah.
You got to free yourself of that confidentiality and open yourself up to.
Well, I meant
whatever.
that's part of AA.
Yeah.
If you come in, that's what you're expected to do.
Right.
I'm but I'm even thinking like if you have political groups that come in and you have people that are of the differing political group,
Then that falls under behavior issues.
Yeah.
Well, it can.
can.
I mean,
Yeah,
if-
and it
if
might not.
One
but-
it
side
might
says
not.
civil and the other side doesn't. then-
No, but it
Yeah.
might not. I mean, if you're
Right.
developing strategies.
Are you thinking of the woman that was physically ejected from the Trump rally? She was black, and all the people around her were white. It looked really bad, and it was.
Is she misbehaving?
Well, she was trying to
I didn't
talk. She was
follow
trying
it.
to talk to the candidate, and
Right.
nobody wanted that to happen because she was ick.
And they didn't, well, but I mean, you didn't let other people talk to the candidate either.
No, they just threw her out physically.
I know.
Well, be that as it
But-
may,
Yep.
I think that, even though there is a community room, that doesn't mean it's appropriate for every single meeting, right? So that's just, I wrote it that way because that's what you see in a lot of libraries.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, no, it's a
I
really
mean-
great
It's-
question because I, kind of think about it every time
Well,
I see
and
it.
it curbs down those kinds of meetings. If you're going to have a political campaigning strategy meeting, you don't want to put it in a public place where everybody and their pet dog can hear it. If you're going to have a meeting of the Ku Klux Klan, you're not going to want to have it in an open place where everybody and their pet dog can walk in and talk to you.
But if my choir wants to use the room and it's open and I sign up for it and we're not cooking there, we're bringing food in, I don't want everybody walking in on my choir dinner.
But I don't think, I think that that's what we have to think about, that it's
That's
a
the
public
question.
space that people know, and if it's someone who isn't able to gauge socially, that, walking in and taking cookies from the choir practice, that's what I think is beautiful about the public library. I think it's what's beautiful about church spaces is that this is how we learn from each other. And I think that as adults, we're all able to handle it and find gracious ways to handle it. Do you know what I mean? But the point of our space is that it is public, and that perhaps the Ku Klux Klan may want to meet to make a statement that has happened. I mean, this is a space, and it is up to us to civilly interact with each other around it. So,
Yeah, and,
I
we
think-
can have the doors closed and we can have a meeting schedule posted, and I would be very surprised if somebody would walk in on a meeting where is going on and the doors are closed, but
It's
They
actually,
could.
then that's like living life, right? It's like living life with other people, and sometimes people don't do what we like them to do. I mean, if you live in a big city, that happens all the time, and you learn. I don't know. I think it'll be okay.
this was
I think
happened
it-
at a library recently where they had a public meeting room, and the group that was meeting there was actually trying to have a private meeting and discriminating based on race.
Sure.
And saying they were only allowing, a certain group into there. So I think, it is good that we have that out there, but we also want to make sure that, not just that it's open to the public, but a non-discrimination policy,
Absolutely. I agree with you.
But I mean, you make it very, very plain that this is a public meeting space and that all meetings are considered public meetings, that anybody of the public can attend them.
I think we hammered that one.
That's
out,
gonna
right?
be interesting.
I need to ask those kind of questions.
No, it's a
Excellent
great
question.
question. It's a
Because it
great
helps us drill down
question.
to the
Yeah.
core issue.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it, and I had the same question, and I was channeling in a former life that I used the library space for staff meetings, staff trainings, because it was the biggest space, and we probably did not think of it as a public meeting that anybody would come. Not that anybody ever did, but it was not uncommon to do staff trainings in the library
Yeah, and I
space.
still think that would be a great place for it, but, just with that reservation that, but this is a public building and this is a public space. And by public, we mean not exclusive to your use. You can expect some privacy, but not complete privacy. Yeah. So it's an interesting concept.
One typo on the last page, questions, number 1. I think it's if instead of is.
Yeah, but it's just a question, so.
No, there you go.
And then there's a time limit of 3 hours, I think, for the smaller groups, or the smaller meeting rooms. Is that the same for the community room? And also the
yeah, really good
forfeiture after
question.
15 minutes if you're not there for the smaller rooms is the same for the community room?
Good point. We need to mirror ourselves, what we say.
Yep. Good catch.
Yeah, good catch. So, we want to ruminate on some of this stuff. And again, once we have it and we adopt it and we start practicing it, we can change it at any time. And I think that we need to plan on, being flexible enough to see how it really gets used and all that. And, expect to see this after the library is open and we get tons of complaints about whatever. I can't believe you're throwing me out 30 minutes before. Did that Eileen Sheridan tell you to do that?
Yeah.
She did. Okay, so great thoughts on that. All of those are fantastic. Now, the next one. I know I'm making you work really hard. So, this dress code one has been floating around the library for over a year, and I was finally just like, oh, gosh darn it, let's just get this thing written. The HR director here said we could have something that's different than the city dress code, which is just ridiculous and written back in the era where, I think all of us would be wearing suits or something to work. And it's not like it's followed here to the letter either, because there's people back here that wear jeans and stuff and, all that. It kind of needs to reflect your work. On the other hand, people need to show some respect to their audience. Staff does. And I believe in comfortable, but I don't have pants that aren't comfortable to bend over in. I don't have pants that aren't comfortable to kneel in. That jeans are not even my most comfortable pants. So, you don't have to sacrifice looking respectful and appropriate to be comfortable. So, we went round and round on a lot of these things, and, you know, we feel like this is very liberal, but not too liberal, and I really just wanted to get your input on it. It's kind of an in-house, you know, thing for staff, but we will adopt it, and, you know.
I think it looks good. I mean, if the HR for the city signs off on it, you know, that they don't see any conflict here from an HR standpoint.
Okay.
I think it's very generous. I think it, you know.
It gives
Is
a
it
lot
two?
No, it gives a lot of flexibility without
No,
being
I think it covers.
draconian.
How has it worked in the last year?
Well, we haven't actually, this hasn't been formal, you know, because we actually just completely went through it again and kind of updated, got everybody, because we had new people and all that stuff. But so, so there have been a couple occasions where people have worn things like that really were like gym clothing, you know, spandex tops and that kind of thing. And we just said, you know, that's inappropriate for the work setting. Don't dress like that again. And they didn't wear that again, as far as I know. So it's again, it's rare, you know, and I would like to take it up a notch in the new building, you know, where, you know, we had less jeans and stuff, but it's hard to say no jeans. It is to me.
Yeah, and I'm sure that you're always going to have exceptions. You know, like costume days, you're going to be.
Oh yeah, that's just
That's
completely different.
Right.
That is, yeah.
Yeah, because to say no caps, no hats, no sweatbands or bandanas when you've got
Unless
costume
it's
stuff.
costume day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't see Princess Leia in here at all. So.
Well, she's right there.
Well, I have a question. It's kind of weird. I sound like an old fuddy-duddy, but what about body art? We're talking piercings and goth.
Right.
And, yeah.
We're in Portland. We're-
Well,
Yeah.
You-
no,
you
we're
wouldn't
not
be
in.
able to hire
We're not in
anyone.
Portland. We're 30 miles south of Portland.
No, I know, but.
But you know, that's why I say I'm going to sound like an old fuddy-duddy. But some of it's kind of extreme. I've met them. I'm working with some of them
It
actually.
depends on your sensibilities. You know, is it the sort of thing that is it tasteful, or is it designed to offend, or at least get a rise out of people? You know, I have absolutely no problem whatsoever with guys that come in with full sleeve tattoos.
Sure, okay.
Because
Oh,
some of that
how about
is
Gina?
quite beautiful.
Hmm?
But other people would look at that and go, "Why on earth would you do that to yourself? And
How
why
about
are you
how
subjecting
about a
me to it?"
full-face Maori?
I-
I've seen them.
Oh, yeah.
I-
So,
yeah.
Piercings
I would
everywhere.
like you to go in and look at our reference librarian
Yes.
and tell me how you feel about it.
I'm probably gonna
Because
feel okay
we've
about
got
it.
it right there.
I'm
We
going to
have
be okay,
it
but I just want to
already.
raise the question. You know,
Yeah.
that, some of them get a little extreme for their own whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
I got no tats, but that doesn't mean I don't like them.
Seems like it doesn't interfere with their ability to work.
It doesn't interfere with their work.
So I have a house guest right now who has tats
Huh?
everywhere. It's the most annoying thing because we're at the table and she has a big eyeball on her elbow that keeps looking at me. I'm going, no.
It's when they wink that you got
I know. But it's beautifully done. It's not
Yeah.
bad, but I'm just saying, you know, I guess.
Well, I
guess
think
we're okay
that,
with that.
yeah, I don't know how City Hall would answer all of this, but I think part of it would be like, if it doesn't interfere with their job performance,
There you go.
then it's going to be kind of hard to say
I think that's the
no.
important thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And what we've had at the
that's
library to
covered.
date has definitely not interfered with
Jewelry should not interfere with the
job
ability to perform
performance, because
required
Gina is the
tasks.
one that I know that has the most visible tattoos, and she's like one of our best people.
Get your
So,
drink off the counter
yeah.
here, right?
All right.
I would also just like to say that this question came up in Crook County. At one point, I did have a bright purple buzz cut, and in cowboy country, and that was fairly controversial. And I discussed it with my boss
Kidding.
before I did it. And one of the things that we talked about was the fact that there are a lot of different people in the world, and that I think especially in the Portland area where, you know, various body modifications are really common, but there might be people who wouldn't be comfortable coming up to a staff member who is dressed very conservatively. Whereas they might feel more comfortable coming up to somebody who looks a little bit different. I know that there were people who, they made it because I had a buzz cut and it was brightly colored and, I dressed and presented myself in a certain way. People made assumptions about the kind of person that I was, and they felt more comfortable asking me questions that they might not have asked other staff members.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and I, especially there were, in that community, being an LGBT teenager is really challenging, and there were quite a few teens who kind of, opened up to me, and I mean that was the hair was a good conversation point and things like that. But I mean there are people who, they might those body modifications, again, if it's not interfering with their job performance, might actually make some people feel more comfortable in the library, and so it's
Goes both ways.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. And then finally,
Yeah, this one.
we have the added unattended adult clause, which is number 21 on the behavior policy. And the behavior policy is something that you guys have already adopted and we reviewed in depth not very long ago. But I actually think I'm going to come back to you next month with one more item, which will be talking about large bags and stuff like that, and just saying, we can't have like a bunch of obstructions in the library. I saw something out on the list this week that was written in a way that it's, so let's say you're homeless and you carry everything with you, that's fine, but you got to keep it out of the way of where people walk and stuff like that. And we haven't really had a problem with it, but you always want to have something that kind of backs you up in case there is a problem. So like some people like to sit it next to them, and that's the other thing. It's like, I don't want that stuff on my furniture and taking up seating. And so then you've got something that you can point to and say, it just helps having that in your policy. So I'm going to bring that next month. So we don't have to approve this tonight if we don't want to, because I will be asking to modify that again. And
I
I'll give
had
you
a
time to
question.
think about that part.
I
Yes.
had one question on
Yes.
this too, that it's only because it's been more current on people's heads lately, and I belong to a Facebook group with Oregon City, and it's come up quite a bit. And that has to do with concealed weapons or open carry people.
So,
And
yeah.
is the library willing to take a stand on that, one way or the other, or does that go under a city ordinance?
That goes under city ordinance.
So in a public building, a city building, they're not allowed to bring
Right.
weapons in?
Right.
Okay. It just might be something that you might want to line item, because you're already bringing out that, lots of different things, that
Right.
it might be something that, sorry,
But
you have to.
again, yeah, as you pointed out, you can just cite per city ordinance such and such.
Yeah.
no-
Yeah,
no
But we
weapons
could,
allowed.
we
just-
could
it's-
name it though,
Yeah, it's just,
specifically.
it's so. It's a
That
hot-
way you've got,
helps
it's
it's
popular.
real clear.
People like to.
This is where we stand with it.
Okay.
Okay, and so now that we were talking about this though, how does number 21 look to you?
It's a good anti-creeper law.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not that we don't want adults in the children's area, but we
Lord
want
knows.
the appropriate adults in the children's
We've
area.
gone tootling around in the teen section and the kids
Right.
section.
Well, I mean,
I'm thinking with the last sentence, though,
uh-huh.
while everyone is welcome to browse, and
Mhm.
I would add, and access the collections.
Mhm.
Because
Yes.
there's browsing and there's also the accessing, so you would,
Absolutely.
Like I
Yeah.
said, I've gone down to the kids section looking for stuff for my daughter or my
No, yeah, and
kids.
that you're always well, and even for yourself. I don't care
Mhm.
who's
Right.
reading it. But I mean, I love children's literature and YA titles, but we
We
really
know.
want the children to be the people hanging out in the children's
Yeah.
area,
Right.
without worrying about.
So is it,
I maybe or even say, welcome to browse and actively access the collections. Adults not accompanying a child teen should use the main library seating and computer areas. Yeah, I mean, because you want to make it that that's not the space to hang out, but you can.
So actively access.
Yeah.
You like-
Or maybe we could just change it to, adults may use the collections. and then may use the collections, and everyone may use all the library collections, something to that effect, but just having it be used, because we're talking about using seating areas, using computers,
Right.
using
Or saying
collections.
seating areas and common spaces are reserved for children and their caregivers. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah.
I guess the question goes, the stuff that's unwritten, is that put the onus on you as the children's
Yeah.
librarian to keep tabs on individual adults that come in?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
laughing. I sent my poor husband, we were in San Francisco, and I was at a conference, and I wanted to get a lot of pictures of different branch libraries, and I didn't even think about it and sent him off to take pictures. And he was taking pictures in a children's area, and he was like trying to, I'm taking for my librarian wife, and I mean,
like, you're not
and
here,
it-
you're not
yeah, I
ready.
know.
Yeah.
It's like, he said there weren't any kids in the pictures, but that
She told me to do it.
I felt so bad. He's like, don't ever make me do that again.
Okay, so I will rephrase that, and then next time I will come back with the one about weapons spelled out, and the one with, that I just mentioned about bags and all that stuff spelled
Yeah.
out. So we can just hold off on that one until then, okay?
Can I ask one other clarification?
Yeah.
I think it was before my time. So number 11,
Yes.
about operating bicycles, roller skates, skateboards. So is the library premises the whole park area, the sidewalk? I mean,
Basically, what the idea behind that is they didn't want skateboarders and scooter riders to use the fountain area for their personal skate park.
okay.
Yeah, but
So
they
it
do
does include
anyway,
the
but
park.
yeah, it
Yeah.
does, see you later. But it does include all that, and we're gonna have even more concrete out there.
Yeah. More
And
concrete
while we
rails, more
can't
stuff.
like really manage the outside as well as the inside, we can at least like say, we don't like this and try to put some things in place
Okay, thank
and
you.
not encourage it. So yeah, it does.
When I worked at Fred Meyer, that was a huge problem.
Yeah, it
because
can
they
be
were-
a big problem.
Oh, skateboards, bicycles, everything coming right through the
Well,
store.
to give you an idea, I mean, I work late night over at the Mickey D's, and across the way is this nice, mini mall situation. And of course, they've got nice signs posted, please no skateboarding, no bicycling, and there's kids that are skateboarding directly in front of the signs, doing their wall plants and whatnot, right onto the sign if they can
Yeah.
help it. And it's like, the respect
I mean,
level is just,
I know that's gonna happen, but anyway. Well,
Oh.
thank you guys so much for that feedback.
kudos on the way you worded number 15 regarding animals, the difference between a service animal and
Oh, yeah.
and a care animal.
Well, we still have problems
Oh, I
with
know,
that.
I know.
Boy, just last week. This is a service animal, really?
Nope, service animal's a dog.
I have one more embarrassing.
Well, this was a dog, but
But
One
it's
more.
a
it's not a
dog.
service dog, yeah.
One more question, number 4,
Yes.
under sexual acts. That seems to be a hot topic these days. What about upskirting?
About what? What?
Upskirting.
Sitting underneath the stairs and, yeah.
So there's a word for it.
There is.
Skirting.
I think it might be part of the code, but I'm not sure. But I definitely think that people have been getting caught recently at various public areas right doing that. And they're very clever about it because they can use the selfie thing,
The
Yeah.
selfie stands, yeah.
start taking pictures underneath skirts and stuff.
We can add that.
Yeah, I wish you would.
Sure.
I think it's a total violation
Okay.
of this person.
Because he
All
likes
right.
running around a kilt.
Building report, real quickly.
Take a picture of that, that's right.
Oh, nothing much has happened.
Nothing much has happened at all, yeah.
Yes, it has. You got bricks,
You know,
You
we
got
have brick-
stairs.
We have stairs.
stairs.
We have a roof.
You guys are keeping an eye on things.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's looking really, really good.
Yes, it is. I'm still on schedule.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
Still on schedule.
Yeah. You know,
Um,
they're running into their typical little construction detail problems, but there's nothing, right now, there's nothing to indicate that there's any impact on the overall schedule. So.
So the schedule's still on budget.
Yeah, the budget is still, it's starting to tighten down now as we're plowing our way through the last, parts and pieces that have to go into the
To be
thing.
expected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd say that right now, there's nothing that surprises me or
Great.
concerns me. So, yeah.
I was amazed at how fast that masonry went up.
Yeah. And they're putting in these big things called precast, which are kind of like the yellow ledge.
Yes.
That, yeah, so you can see that start on this west side. And on the north side there, I think they're done. So that's taking a lot of time. They're really heavy, and we saw them like had one kind of like a couple inches about where it's going to be set, and you could see how big it is. It's just, they're ginormous. So those are getting set, and then the windows will go in after that. So it will be like completely dried in all the way around, like before we know it.
We should have a little party once they get it dried in and
Yeah.
That's going to come up here in discussing the foundation stuff.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, hard hat.
I got to pay to have a drink in my new library, you mean?
Might. But you won't be drinking it in there.
Oh,
but,
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. What else can we tell them about the building? I mean, it's all going very well. Barrett and I spent the day talking to the shelving people. We've been working with the furniture people, so we're drilling down on all those details, down to like the display tables and this and that. We're still working on the RFID project to get that.
Have we seen what the shelving and the furniture is going to look like yet?
I don't know, we're picking it.
Well,
They haven't really quite zeroed in on
Okay,
everything.
so no.
It's the last
Well,
piece of the.
But I mean, we more or less know what it's gonna.
Yeah.
I do.
You do.
For the building, we don't really.
I trust you.
Much care, you know.
The building could be
Yeah.
that, right?
There will be a lot of seating, believe me.
Well, I remember when we took our tours of the various buildings before we started this whole process, that a lot of the attention was on furniture and fixtures and shelving, and boy, that looks good with that. And I haven't heard anything about ours here, so
Well, there's a lot to think about.
yes, they're in there.
And the architects have a surprising
Also,
number
the
of opinions
cards
about
are
how that stuff
played close to the
look.
gut.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, yeah, we're trying to kind of marry the more traditional Carnegie to something more modern.
Mhm.
And we also want areas to be, certain areas especially, to be really fun and interesting and colorful. So you'll see more color in the children's area and in the teen area, which will probably actually be split off by color, which will look, I think, really, really cool. So we've got some really fun furniture in mind. So for instance, like some of the tables in the children's area are made out of recycled plastic bottles, which is really great. And they'll be a color. I'm not sure which color at this point. So we're looking at all kinds of various stuff and ideas that we've picked up at some of the conferences that we've gone to. And the shelving itself, we're trying to use the elm that we cut down,
Yes.
or the end panels of
That's
the
what I
shelving.
like. Yep, great.
So that'll look really, really nice. It's not cheap to mill that wood. So,
Well, do you actually have a final contract with the furniture suppliers at this point, or is it just a little ways away from being finalized?
we're a little bit from specific furniture. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're a little bit away from that.
So maybe next month we might have a better.
Yeah.
Okay, because the whole furniture thing is still very much in flux, I think.
Yeah.
in getting it settled.
But we're definitely on the way. Been working on it hard. And that's about all I can think of on that. And I didn't bring any of the PowerPoints, but, so I've probably done a couple since we last met, and they're posted on the library website.
Okay.
I think they are, they're supposed to be. Okay.
All right, communications.
Linda, do you want me to pass these minutes out while you're speaking? Okay.
Communicating.
I
Oh,
asked
you-
DA to talk about it because I wasn't at the meeting. So why don't you hit the highlights and anything that was important, then I can tell you. I can tell you while he's skimming it to tell you what the highlights are, that Karen and I are starting to hit the business community, so, and refine our talking points and things. And so we're doing those things, and you talk about the hard hat.
Yeah, the kind of the big thing that we're planning is for May 14th, we've got a donor party tour.
By invite only.
Right, for the library. And it does bring up a point that, and I know the commissioners are touring the library at sometime pretty soon, and
April 11th or 12th.
and the board probably would like to do the same. So we might I guess,
Maybe
How do
the
we-
board could tack on to the commission.
would that make it too big, or would it be all right? So we should announce that. That's April 11th or 12th? I'm sorry.
That Tuesday? I think that might be the 12th.
Yeah, Beverly Cleary's birthday. It's Tuesday.
Oh, that is Beverly Clear's 100th birthday on April 12th.
We're going to have a party.
We certainly are.
And so we're working on it, we're collecting money, we're doing good, we need more, so,
Yeah, we started the
big push.
putting the big push is on now for the foundation, and we're inviting everybody to participate. That's for sure. So, I think the biggest problem the foundation's got is we're not real sure what we should be doing every step of the way. So we're kind of redoing brochures and that kind of thing because we've kind of outgrown some of the original stuff. But things are moving along okay.
And I'll answer questions if you want to, so I think Jan's from the Friends.
Jan Salisbury, Friends of the Oregon City Library, and we are looking at ways that we can partner with the library itself, even though we're a block away. And so we're the latest idea we had is highlighting the month of. So, like this was Women's Month, so find books and promote them and things like that. Another thing we're looking at, we'd like to be able to stay in that space, but it's really big. We've got it filled, but we're also looking at the idea of maybe finding someone to sublease part of the space, which we've done before, and do that again. So it's just a matter of defining who that would be and how that would work. Farmers Market will be starting up again, and that amazingly is a big fundraiser for us. We do much each year. We did a little bit more, and last year it became more common that we'd have a $200 Saturday in selling the books. So it's become a good thing. Another thing our board did today is made a determination to provide $900 to the library for the new art program that Barrett is leading. So that's how we're helping with things.
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah, very, very generous.
So then I have a couple of questions and comments on the policies that you went through, if I could bring that.
Sure.
And one of the comment I heard more than once was to be tight at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're being tight on the small room use, then maybe consistently do that with the large conference room. And the question was about after hours. Well, at the initial time, then make it only during library hours would
It's a
be
good
the
idea.
suggestion.
Just not start off that way, yeah.
And if, though, you go to the point where it would be after hours, make that a higher deposit, like $50 instead of $20. And whether or not nonprofits have to pay that deposit, that may become a confusing question, so maybe across the board, make it a deposit. And if it's only $20, most nonprofits could do that, especially if they know they're getting it back. And then I have a comment about I hadn't ever thought about it, but the body piercing issue in dress code, and I'm very open, I'm very accepting of everything, but there are a few body piercings that I think an employer could say not at work, and one would be on the tongue, because it's really hard to understand people generally when they have it on their tongue. Maybe there's others too, but that would be my suggestion. So, I don't know if you can do that, but I don't see why not. So that's my comments on the Friends, and if you have any comments or if you have any ideas about people that might want to share a space that'd be compatible is a better word, I guess, with the bookstore, then just talk to the people there. We have a great management group that's working really, really well with our system now. So.
How many people a month go through the bookstore?
How many people a month? Well, that's an interesting question because I pop in at different times during the week, and here lately, the last 2 or 3 months, it seems like there's several people in the bookstore, whereas previous years there might be one as a customer. And so as to how many, though,
I don't
that's
think people keep tabs, Don.
Well, the reason I ask
Yeah.
is if I'm promoting this to somebody who might be compatible, is that the word? I would say, well, their foot traffic is they get 400 people through there.
yeah, it's a good point.
A number, you know.
And
Good
I
point.
wouldn't doubt that we get maybe 300.
But
Yeah.
There's certainly, Harriet reported today there were 18 volunteers that, I don't even know what the number of hours, over 400 hours,
Yeah.
or close to 400 hours. But my husband works usually Tuesdays, and he sees a good number of people. And that Tuesday's a slow day for the week, so.
I'll tell them that there's a good number of people on a slow day, so, all right.
Yeah.
Exact, that's specific, Don.
Right, it sounds like it may be something to consider for a month, just keeping a tally.
Yeah,
so you have
well, it
a
might be
database.
worth getting a
you.
door counter. We have a system that's very inexpensive. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, there's that kind of door counter too.
Well, you're volunteering?
Yeah.
If I had the
Dan's
time,
coming over. He's
You
free.
got the noise.
He's good.
Thank you,
All
Mike.
right, thanks, you guys.
So let's come back to that tour just for a moment. The commissioners' tour is on the 12th. That's the day before our next library board meeting. And
Be a Tuesday?
So it's Tuesday, the 12th, and what time was it?
It was like 4:15 to 5:15.
Okay.
So I don't know, how many people could make it. I could talk to Dave about, maybe what we could do is, maybe we could start our library board meeting over there or something. It's a public meeting, and I cannot give a public tour, though. That's the other thing.
Yeah, I think
We could have the public part over here, I guess. We could work that out.
We're having a private, what's those sessions called?
Executive session?
There you go.
You can't have that for that reason.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would be fine to do that if we moved it over here afterwards, or some other public space. Let me talk to Dave before we
Mhm. Okay.
combine with the commissioners.
Okay.
Let me just see because that's kind of early for some of you. You probably couldn't make it. You probably couldn't make it at 4:15.
I can be here.
You could? You could? Okay. All right, well, that's good to know. Everybody else?
Might be able to make it, but I'd probably have to leave early.
Okay, all right. I don't know about Laura. All right.
Well, I think there'll be other opportunities as well. This is just a fun thing to do, so it's.
Well, and see where, the fruits of your efforts.
We need to talk about the art committee?
You could.
Well, me or you, I don't know, whatever.
Go ahead.
Well, we had a children's artist for the children's area, and he decided not to do it. So we're without a children's artist right now, which is not a bad deal because it'd probably be good to have the place kind of at least scoped out a little bit before another artist is brought in to take a look and he had a different idea about what it was going to be, and I don't think it really fit with his style after he finally saw the plans. Our Frit artist, we're meeting with him next week, is it? I think it is.
Yes.
Yeah, next Tuesday or something like that, is moving right along. The Frit, as you recall, is the design on the upper windows that get a lot of sun exposure. So this cuts down on the amount of sun that it actually blasts into the building, but allows people to see out through it and to the surrounding park. So he's going to give us an update on his plans for that. And he's also doing the suspended one, right?
Right.
So I think we'll probably hear about that too, which should be quite...
Making a model of it, so that would be cool.
Right, so it'd be quite colorful. Flashing around in the sun, looking like something. I don't know. Can't tell you till after I see it, but we'll see.
Thank you.
All come together. All right, so next month, I'm going to bring back some of that policy stuff.
Great.
All right?
Can't wait.
And thank you for your help. This really helps move it forward, which we absolutely have to do. So any other topics? And I'll find out about getting you guys in the building.
Are we going to go over the 5-year plan at some point?
I think we're going to get through, I think we decided to get through these policies before we look at that again. Yeah. And I might ask that we get through the building before we look at that again. Since getting in the building will take care of a bunch of those things, and then it really would be good to make sure that we're, making use of our building and planning out in the future. And I know DA already has, future building plans for us. So.
At least 20 years out.
At least 20 years out. Great.
You hear that, foundation, 20 years out?
All right.
We're not intending to dissolve.
All right.
Good.
Okay.
All right, if that's everything, we'll call this adjournment at 6.